This is the World Report of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, April 2022. Coming up, Rebuilding History, Piece by Piece. The original Book of Mormon manuscript is published like it's never been seen before.
Milk, cheese, and honey. The donation of goats and bees is changing lives in Jordan. But first, from Los Angeles to the United Kingdom, from Mexico to Tennessee, JustServe, a community volunteer platform, becomes a hub for miracles. From kids enjoying fresh fruit in the United Kingdom to a cemetery in Mexico City, a pastor distributing food boxes in Los Angeles to a high school club in Tennessee. These communities found each other on a seemingly small space. It's called JustServe.
The great thing about JustServe is how flexible it is. And anything can be posted about there as long as it's important to the community.
JustServe is a community service platform that connects volunteers with service opportunities, as Sister Sharon Eubank explains.
When I tell people about JustServe, I always say there's 3 aspects to it. Anybody can use it, it's free, and it's global.
This year, the platform is celebrating 10 years since its initial sponsorship by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Its reach is diverse and ever-growing.
Since 2012, there have been 670,000 users. Last year, in 2021, there were 41,000 projects in 13 different countries. So this year, Chile and New Zealand will come online. It exists in 5 languages.
The community impact is palpable at this chapel in Leeds, England.
It got bigger and bigger. Each young person that comes here, we ask them, did you have a good time? And every single one of them say yes. And they go and tell another person, and then they come.
Every week, more than 100 kids show up to learn, play, and connect with their peers, thanks to the Hawksworth Community Youth Club.
We found that a lot of the young people, a lot of the individuals, the families, were suffering through neglect, food neglect, and not having anywhere to go.
They wanted a safe place for children in their underserved community to come together.
We went out and we campaigned in the community and said that we're welcome, you're welcome.
Then JustServe helped them secure a location at this Latter-day Saint meeting house.
All the kids have now come. The parents are overwhelmed with joy. They're happy to see that the kids are settled, they're communicating better, they're less frustrated, they know their kids are safe. They're not at risk in the community of being bullied or being preyed upon by drug dealers.
I helped Jenna spread the bagels. I put the fruit out. The benefits, like, we all get trusted here and we're responsible.
When people walking over here, we give them food. Sometimes we give them in the freezer a few turkeys or meat to give them.
In Los Angeles, Pastor Jose Guadalupe Navar is preparing to distribute these food boxes to local families in need. He's teamed up with JustServe to find volunteers and resources, including the Los Angeles Police Department.
People think of us as just being in law enforcement, but that's really never been our game. We're actually about bettering the community.
The department was looking to create its own community service website. When they heard about JustServe, their efforts were magnified.
We have literally coordinated resources by the truckload, by the pallet full, delivering meals, delivering sustenance, delivering resources to community members, literally by the hundreds at a time.
In Mexico City, volunteers spend a Saturday morning at a cemetery.
I like the name for JustServe in Mexico. The translation is Sirve Ahora, because that means that we can serve now.
We don't have to wait until we have a big project. We can just serve now.
Elder and Sister Argueta Cruz were tasked with launching JustServe in Mexico City. It's still relatively new here, but in February, they got a call from local city officials requesting JustServe's help in rounding up volunteers for a cemetery cleanup.
Venimos en apoyo a dejarlo, pues no al 100%, al 70% dejarlo limpio.
Good job, Zeke!
In Tennessee, teens are cheering for their favorite team and helping out to make sure the basketball tournament goes off without a hitch. The teens are here with their high school club. It's called JustServe.
I love seeing the impact we can make on others.
Many of the students are also part of the Tennessee Promise Scholarship, which pays for their first 2 years of college.
And I thought, my gosh, this is tailor-made for what we're doing right now.
Franklin County Mayor David Alexander is a former state legislator. He says the Tennessee Promise Scholarship includes a critical component that students serve in their communities.
There's more and more children taking advantage of the Tennessee Promise. And there's more and more children using JustServe. With this JustServe, that's not accidental, that's providential.
It's the gospel in action. This service is the gospel in action.
Emotional, mental health is a real thing. It's something that needs to be nurtured, focused on, and exercised.
A new self-reliance course offered by the church is helping many develop greater mental health awareness and receive assistance.
What is the worth of your soul to God?
The course, Finding Strength in the Lord, Emotional Resilience, is now available in 15 languages.
The class started in February of 2020.
It was perfectly timed.
Yeah.
Kelly Stotts and his wife Maria live in Geneva, Switzerland.
You know that you're not alone.
They participated in the course's pilot program in early 2020.
There's a feeling of, I support you and you support me and we're family even though we didn't know each other.
Participants learn about healthy thinking patterns, managing stress, anxiety, and addictive behaviors, as well as understanding sadness, depression, and anger, all with a Christ-centered focus.
Well, now you got to scoot all the way over here.
Jackie Pineda, a busy mom in Southern California, says she learned how to better communicate with her children.
It has helped tremendously with my kids. They feel heard, and I think validated.
But above all, Jackie says she gained a greater understanding of the Savior and his atonement.
That has allowed me to offer more patience and grace to my family and my friends.
I drive it forklift, short clothes, quality jack, sometimes change clothes over there and over there.
Manufacturing and training facilities supported by the church are looking for a few good workers, and no experience is required. At the Humanitarian Center and nearby Deseret Manufacturing in Salt Lake City, associates get paid while they learn new job skills, establish a work history, and even learn English.
The first time I started to sorting the clothes, and after that I training forklift. After that I move on to be team leader. I'm here today to get a good life.
This is a place where we get to see the gospel in action. I believe if Christ were to come, he'd help those who are in need, and that's what we see here.
Just south of its border with Turkey, here in northern Iraq, lies Camp Sharia.
This camp has been built after the crisis in 2014 when ISIS attacked Sinjar. People have been flee to this area.
It's home to 12,000 Yazidi people, each relocated against their will, having experienced violence and political unrest.
Despite of everything they have gone through, they're still hoping for a better future.
In June, a portion of the camp burned, destroying nearly 200 tents. Now, thanks to the Barzani Charity Foundation and Latter-day Saint Charities, new concrete structures have replaced the lost homes.
To make some concrete slabs for the families, especially.
Latter-day Saint Charities President Sharon Eubank and Jean B. Bingham, Relief Society General President, walked through some of the thousands of tents, home to 2,300 families, many with women and children.
Night and day, they had privacy. It was clean and new, and you could see that they felt much better about themselves. I think that that's something that's worth giving.
This is just one of many humanitarian projects made possible by NGO relationships and with the support of influential political and regional leaders.
A deep gratitude goes to our brothers and sisters in LDS. The beauty about human beings, and especially those people you see in the camp, they have hope still.
Coming up, the church's helping hands aid volcano and tsunami recovery in Tonga. And bees and goats provide food products and income. A donation from the church fosters self-reliance in Jordan. On January 15th, an undersea volcanic eruption spewed ash and rock across the entire South Pacific nation of Tonga and triggered a devastating tsunami. Several people lost their lives, with more than a dozen others injured. Countless homes were damaged or destroyed in the aftermath of the eruption, which left a thick blanket of volcanic ash that required extensive cleanup. As a dominant faith in Tonga, members and missionaries of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints helped each other and their neighbors clean up and rebuild. Communications are now being restored and greater international aid is being provided.
واعتز بالله عز وجل بيهم انهم منحوني ثقة وانه انا الله قدرني اوصل للعائلات هاي المستورة. الحمد لله الحمد لله يا رب.
Two organizations that have formed a close bond are making a significant difference. Working together, they give goats and bees to those most in need in Jordan.
لله أحسن من كل الدنيا.
Our collaboration with LDS churches is very important for us because they are the ones keeping the project and helping the poor people.
70% of the assistance through this project went to mothers who were really rather desperate in terms of taking care of their families. Best example was a lady that was named Hajar. She was a single mother living in a small cinder block shed with 6 children. She received 2 goats. And then 2 years later, the flock had increased to 6 goats. The milk and yogurt and cheese she was able to produce gave her enough income that she could move into the house that was propping up the shed. So she was able to pay rent and send her children to school and basically take care of her family. There are 135 families that have received milk goats.
We were able to find, through our partner Al Jahoot, that the beehives could be a very good project for refugees to earn money with. But they needed training. And we found out that Ministry of Agricultural Extension Center, which was in a very destitute area of Jordan, where a lot of refugees are and very poor Jordanians, that they would give them the classes for free.
One of the examples was a young man from Aleppo, Syria. He came to Jordan as a refugee with his family.
أول ما أجيت كنت عايش بصعوبة. أول شيء اضطراب نفسي. نسبة النفسية كانت 0%. أربي أي شيء أستطيع أني أقوم فيه، أني أكون أشوف حالي ناجح فيه، فعرضوا علي صندوق النحل. كل خلية تقريبا فيها لحد 30 35 40 ألف نحلة تقريبا. قدرت أني أجيب الماكينة تبع التفريز، كنت أنا أضطر أني أروح أدفع، فلقيت أنه في منه فايدة، والحمد لله يعني مثل ما أنتم شايفين استفدت واهتميت فيه.
He'd done a good job of taking care of the bees and selling the honey. And 2 years later, he had 4 beehives, but also he was able to move his family into a house and send his children to school.
مفتخر أنه صار في عنده موتوج، صار في عنده مردود، صار في عنده حياة ثانية حتى بيقدر يعيشها يعني مع النحل. آمن برب العالمين أنه هو اللي راح يبعث لي إشي مشان أطفالي، مشان يعني هو بيسير أموري، وأنا لازم أسير فيها لحتى أصل للنجاح، أو شبه مصنع من منتجات الخلية.
This young man volunteered to train other new beekeepers in how to take care of bees. That's the kind of thing we see through Latter-day Saint Charities projects, is that it strengthens the partners and the communities as well as the individual beneficiaries. You see the light of Christ in these people's eyes. They are uplifted by the same force that motivates all men to do good.
طبعاً الإنسان بيتبسط وبيقول الحمد لله وابتسامة.
Inspiring a new generation of missionaries, a landmark address on the balance between religious freedom and non-discrimination, and preparing for a temple in the Middle East. Church leaders share their ministry with the world in person and virtually when we come back.
The Lord has never needed his faithful saints more than right now.
Throughout the pandemic, virtual ministering has allowed the message of Jesus Christ to continue reaching people around the world. In January and March, President Russell M. Nelson, president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, spoke to members and friends of the church in Europe and San Diego. Members of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles also participated in virtual ministering. In January, apostles ministered to young adults with 6 devotionals throughout the world.
Thomas Jefferson, founding father of the United States and founder of the University of Virginia in Charlottesville in the early 1800s. Now, more than 2 centuries later, the balance between religious freedom and non-discrimination in a pluralistic society is the focus of a national debate and the subject of a landmark address given at UVA by President Dallin H. Oaks of the First Presidency.
As a practical basis for coexistence, we should accept the reality that we are fellow citizens who need each other. This requires us to accept some laws we dislike and to live peacefully with some whose personal values differ from our own.
Tonight he was speaking primarily to people of faith and telling us, you need to compromise for the sake of unity.
Another basic imperative is that we should not seek total dominance for our own position. We should seek fairness for all. The goals of both sides are best served by resolving differences through mutual respect, shared understanding, and good faith negotiations.
Well, I think it's an important and historic speech for a senior leader of a pretty conservative church to say we need to accept non-discrimination laws, we need to respect our fellow Americans whom we deeply disagree with on important moral issues. We need to find a way to live together. That's hugely important.
But I think this was something that we couldn't have imagined. The authority with which he spoke, the wisdom, the sense of urgency he conveyed, and what he thinks we need to do.
In October, M. Russell Ballard, acting president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, visited Great Britain, the same place he served as a missionary 73 years ago.
We used to stand up here and hold street meetings. We'd come down to the market square and stand up here.
Accompanied by elders Jeffrey R. Holland and Quentin L. Cook, who also served as missionaries in England, the apostles, along with their wives, reflected on their early missionary service and the strength it brought to their faith.
And I was coming back from a street meeting that we had held in the market square. While walking along this river, I knew that the Lord knew that I was there.
The first British and European baptisms took place in the River Ribble in July of 1837.
During their visit, the leaders ministered to members of the church and made time for a special visit to inspire the next generation of missionaries in the British Isles.
The membership of the church are building the Church and Kingdom of God as well now, perhaps as any time in the history of the church in England.
The great days of the United Kingdom are still ahead of us.
Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, has rapidly become one of the most popular tourist destinations globally. It is home to the world's tallest building, thousands of mosques, and will soon be home to another sacred worship center, a temple of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
How are you?
As a part of his Middle Eastern ministry, which included Jordan and Bahrain, Elder David A. Bednar and his wife Susan, along with other church leaders, ministered in Dubai, where they also had the opportunity to visit Expo 2020, where the church previously announced that a temple would be built in the general area. The temple will be the first in the Middle East and will serve as an anchor for members of the faith from neighboring countries.
Transportation systems have been oriented to bring people to this location, and it's in a very dynamic area. The Lord has picked a perfect location for his temple.
When I heard the temple announcement, I cried because it's like I've been praying and fasting for that for 30 years.
It's incredible to see the faith of the members here in this area.
We study, we learn, we come to understand the covenants of his gospel. We accept them in our lives and we do our best to try to live them. Then he helps us with capacity and blessings far beyond anything we can imagine.
A beautiful part of the world nestled near the Nile River, Egypt is home to a mixture of faiths, including a large Christian population. And it was here in October that members of the Relief Society General Presidency, led by President Gene B. Bingham, joined General Authority 70 Elder Randy D. Funk on their North Africa and Middle Eastern ministry.
We spoke about hope, and we spoke about the love that our Heavenly Father and His Son have for them.
I was particularly impressed with the Relief Society presence of both branches. They were strong but humble leaders, loved the sisters, and were willing to do anything and everything to help them learn to become true disciples of Jesus Christ.
The impression I carry away is how vibrant the culture is, but how vibrant the church is in this part of Africa.
In February, Elder D. Todd Christofferson of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles ministered to church members in 4 West African nations: Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, and the Gambia.
The Gambia. Sweet, wonderful people. Just welcomed us with open arms. It was really sweet.
Elder Christofferson's visit to the Gambia was historic, as this is the first time an apostle of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has visited the country to meet with its leaders, including the President and First Lady.
When we arrived, we had a short meeting with members of the church who live there, immediately followed by a baptism. We were expecting 4 or 5 people to be baptized. It turned out to be 11. So pretty much doubled the size or the number of members we have.
Elder Christofferson's ministry also included visits to 3 other West African nations: Nigeria, Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire, where the church is flourishing.
We had a brief time in Cote d'Ivoire. We were honored to visit the man called the Special Counselor to the President. These meetings with senior government leaders offer us a chance to educate them about what we are doing here, who we are. We let them know that we want to make a contribution. We're people that have good values and do good things. The church is quite established, really, in Nigeria and Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, but much of the rest of the area, it's all very new. So it's still a time of beginning, but this is a very spiritually inclined people. They're open to faith, they pray, they believe, and we always feel uplifted. So yes, if you'll permit it, we'll come back again and again.
At the Riverside Church in New York City, a capacity crowd gathered in honor of a renowned statesman. Senator Joe Lieberman received the 2022 Visionary Leadership Award for a lifetime of service. An observant Orthodox Jew, Senator Lieberman served as a U.S. Senator for nearly a quarter century.
Senator Lieberman has cultivated friendships across a lot of differences of view and difference of religion, and I give a lot of credit to him.
One of the greatest things we can do is the Hebrew words Kiddush Hashem, means the sanctification of God's name. And you don't really do that by going to synagogue or church or temple. You do it by the way you carry yourself in the world.
Up next, once lost and now found, the original handwritten Book of Mormon manuscript is recovered and reassembled. And after 3 years of extensive work, we'll take you inside the newly renovated Mesa, Arizona temple.
Welcome to Roots Tech 2022 by Family Search. I'm Nadia.
And I'm Matthew.
For the second year in a row in a virtual format, Roots Tech 2022, sponsored by Family Search, recently finished its 3-day worldwide conference in early March, reaching more than 1 million people.
We greet you today from the extravagant city of Rio de Janeiro.
Family Discovery Day was the crowning event on the final day, hosted by Elder Ulysses Suarez of the 12 and his wife Rosanna, telling the heartwarming stories of how they met, married, and raised a family in Brazil.
The first Latter-day Temple built in South America was also in São Paulo.
And even when we started our own family with our 3 children, we visited my family every Sunday. We cooked together, shared a meal together, and spent hours and hours together in love and support for one another.
I think music is just part of our DNA.
A light for everyone, the theme of this year's cultural celebration, Luz de las Naciones, Light of the Nations, focused on finding joy and hope in times of trial and difficulty. Featuring a cast of hundreds of volunteers, the night featured traditional and modern song, dance, and stories reflecting cultures from countries throughout Latin America.
We wanted to share the feeling of Luz de las Naciones, that we can still shine no matter what, that nothing is going to stop us.
This manuscript is as if going back in time and reading Paul's epistles.
Historian Dr. Robin Scott Jensen holds one of the most important and sacred documents for church members. These are the original pages of the Book of Mormon manuscript. It's a key piece of scripture for members of the faith, translated by Joseph Smith, founder and first president of the church. While the Book of Mormon has been in circulation since 1830, this original manuscript is now available to anyone who desires to see it.
Nephi obtains the records. This is of Nephi going back to Jerusalem to obtain the brass plates.
The majority of the document's pages were damaged by water in the 19th century while it was stored inside the cornerstone of the Nauvoo house. After Smith's martyrdom, the manuscript was scattered. Smith's widow, Emma Smith, remarried, and her second husband gave portions of it away to visitors in Nauvoo. But over time, historians started the painstaking process of gathering and putting the pages back together. New multispectral imaging reveals the faintest markings compared to the same images photographed with 1950s technology.
There are pages where it's dramatically improved, where you can read the text, whereas before you couldn't.
We think, well, it would be so cool if everybody could come look at the actual artifact. Our feeling is that what we present in the book, it will be an even better experience in some ways because we've done so much work.
These texts were vital to the restoration of the gospel in its fullness. This volume touches my heart deeply.
This latest installment of the Joseph Smith Papers marks the 23rd volume published.
It's amazing. Just stepping on the temple grounds, you get emotional because I love this temple.
Sacred and serene, and a spiritual refuge from the harshness of the world. In October, the Mesa, Arizona Temple of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was rededicated after more than 3 years of extensive renovation. The Mesa Temple holds deep connections to thousands of families that have passed through its doors for nearly a century.
The reason why this is special to me is because it's the temple that we were still as a family.
Elizabeth recalls selling everything her family owned to make the costly journey from El Salvador to Arizona to be joined together as a family forever. Over the years, large groups of Latinos have done the same, made possible by a significant event that took place in 1945 in Mesa. The first temple ceremony, offered in Spanish, now enables millions of families to participate in their native languages across the globe. The nearly 75,000 square foot structure is the seventh temple of the church. Its design is a departure from previous temple architecture.
The church was coming out of this era of immense persecution and wanted to build temples that fit in with the landscape, that weren't making too bold of a statement. So here in Mesa, they chose a temple without a steeple, without a Moroni, and a colonial revival style.
We had to work with historic structures and new structures and blend them together to make them look like they're unified and part of the same system.
Updating with more efficient utility systems, especially air conditioning, was at the top of the list. An artist was commissioned to create new murals to completely cover the walls of each instruction room, similar to how they looked in 1927. The new paintings pay homage to the original artists.
I became very connected to feeling akin to them. I felt a harmony and a resonance with their intent.
It took painstaking effort and prayer to replicate and match the materials used in the temple.
So everything that we had matched exactly what was here in the historic time.
The bride's room features a crystal chandelier and sconces, walnut millwork, and decorative friezes. The baptistry, its purpose to help members follow the Savior's commandment that all must be baptized. Here, temple patrons can act on behalf of those who didn't have the opportunity in this life. Unique to the Mesa Temple, above the doorways are scriptural passages that invite introspection as patrons progress through the sacred space. Sealing rooms where families are joined together for time and eternity. Lustrous crystalline chandeliers highlight a finely appointed celestial room. Exquisitely detailed furnishings and decor, designed to uplift the spirit and inspire the soul.
We used the finest materials and highest quality processes to build a house of the Lord.
Entering this sacred space represents the ultimate progression one can achieve toward heaven itself. The Mesa, Arizona temple, with its rich heritage, stands majestic and renewed, ready to serve once again as a heavenly refuge to families and the community.
We thank all who are working on our new temples.
Coming up, we'll take you to the dedications, groundbreakings, and announcements of temples around the world.
We're building temples at a faster rate now than ever before in the history of the church.
New temples, dedications, and groundbreakings. Amid global challenges, the work of temple building continues unhindered.
We thank all who are working on our new temples. They are being built all over the world.
In the October 2021 General Conference, President Russell M. Nelson announced plans to construct 13 new temples around the world. Kaohsiung, Taiwan. Tacloban City, the Philippines. Monrovia, Liberia. Kananga, Democratic Republic of the Congo. Antananarivo, Madagascar. Culiacan, Mexico. Vitoria, Brazil. La Paz, Bolivia. Santiago West, Chile. Fort Worth, Texas. Cody, Wyoming. Rexburg North, Idaho. And Heber Valley, Utah.
In addition to new temples announced, several newly completed temples have been dedicated. On October 31st, the Winnipeg, Manitoba Temple was dedicated by Elder Garrett W. Gong of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles following a public open house. The temple will now serve nearly 5,000 Latter-day Saints in Manitoba and Northern Ontario. In November, Elders M. Russell Ballard and Neil L. Anderson dedicated the Pocatello, Idaho Temple on the eastern foothills of the city.
A temple is a place where sacred covenants and ordinances can be performed. We're building temples at a faster rate now than ever before in the history of the church.
Ground was broken for the 71,000 square foot temple in the spring of 2019. Now completed, this House of the Lord is the 5th operating temple in the state of Idaho. In December, President Dallin H. Oaks of the First Presidency rededicated the Mesa, Arizona Temple following its extensive renovations.
The building of multiple temples throughout the world is to prepare the covenant children of the Lord with the strength they need.
As well as dedications, since October, ground has been broken for temples in Casper, Wyoming, Pago Pago, American Samoa, and Freetown, Sierra Leone.
In addition to new temple construction, Pioneer-era temples continue to be updated and renovated. The extensive St. George Temple renovation has crossed the 2-year mark and is now in the home stretch. The West Addition, well underway. The exterior North Addition is ready for paint. And the completion of walkways, planters, and landscaping are on schedule.
One of the main things that we've done in the last year is we finished all the primary upgrades that we need to do to the historic temple. We're able to get in and now work on all the mechanicals, electrical, and then get into the finished work. Being able to collaborate and to make something this challenging, it's just an honor to be able to work on a house of the Lord.
Do you want to testify?
When we return, 5 decades of representing African American saints, the Genesis Group turns 50. A donation from the church gives this women's basketball team new wheels and honoring the legacy of the Mormon Battalion. These stories and more in the news.
Do you want to testify? Hey! Do you want to testify? Hey! Do you want to testify?
A milestone celebration for the Genesis Group, established to serve and represent African American Latter-day Saints in Utah. The commemoration event was held at the Tabernacle on Temple Square with musical performances and speakers.
I hope you all ready for this lyrical storm. You might think it's hot, but we're just getting warm.
It was a surprise from the beginning, and its continuation has been a beautiful surprise.
In Dubai, the church joined the Guru Nanak Darbar Sikh Temple in celebrating its 10th anniversary. Together, these 2 organizations provided water flasks to 5,000 construction workers as a token of appreciation for their work in the region. Starting with a humanitarian aid project in 2015, this collaboration between the Sikhs and Latter-day Saints is seen by many as an example of peaceful coexistence in this part of the world.
As human beings, there's far more which connects us than what divides us.
Nearly $6 million was donated by an estimated 300,000 participants through the annual Christmas season Light the World Giving Machines initiative. Items selected through vending machines go to feed, clothe, and care for others around the world. In addition to the regional distribution of donations across the United States, a reception was held in New York City in early March, earmarking donations for the 5 global organizations who participated, including CARE, Church World Service, the United Nations Refugee Agency, UNICEF, and WaterAid. In Australia's heartland, Latter-day Saint Charities partnered with the Salvation Army to support the indigenous communities in Alice Springs. Latter-day Saint Charities donated 12 months of supplies, including more than 2,000 hygiene kits with food and clothing.
In partnership with Fundación Ciudad Humana and the Bolivian Ministry of Justice, the church donated specialized wheelchairs to the Bolivian women's wheelchair basketball team, who rolled into a major victory that qualified them for the renowned Copa Libertadores de America Games. The team had previously been competing with worn-out equipment. In service to their country, faith in their leaders and God, 175 years ago, the march and service of the Mormon Battalion was a gritty test of sacrifice by soldiers and their families. In January, Elder D. Todd Christofferson of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles attended an anniversary commemoration of the battalion in San Diego.
And if we will serve as they did, untiringly, looking out for the good of one another, this will be a different and better place.
Skill, safety, and accuracy, all put to the test 270 feet in the air. When we come back, we'll give you an inside look at the people and processes helping the Salt Lake Temple renovation reach new heights.
Three to touch, 2, 1, touchdown.
He has the $1 million view and the confidence of a fighter pilot.
We're pretty confident as tower operators, but we can't let that go to our heads.
The tonnage of material he flies with his tower crane is only equaled by the weight he carries on his shoulders.
Anybody that can take the responsibility into their hands to operate a crane is a different breed.
Trainee Smith has operated cranes for more than 20 years.
They just said, hey, you have an aptitude for it.
He now works on the Salt Lake Temple renovation project, the apex of his career.
It's not just going up there and running crane, it's about the experience of running the crane on a project of this magnitude and its historical value.
Trainees' day starts around 6 a.m.
Do those time slots work for everybody?
in a coordination meeting with all the subcontractors on site to ensure their hauling needs are met.
Crane coordination is a critical element to make the project run smoothly. Every delivery that we bring has got to be scheduled, gets on the hook with the scheduled crane time.
Brad Bonney says cranes and their crews are the lifeblood of the Salt Lake Temple construction site.
We couldn't do it without cranes.
Crucial for a site that spans a single city block with limited access.
Any other conflicts that we need to resolve? Looks like we're pretty clean on the south tower crane.
After meeting with the subcontractors, Trainee's crew updates their daily schedule. Then it's time to make the 20-minute climb to the top of the 270-foot tower crane. These solitary surroundings aren't for everyone. He won't climb down again until the job board is cleared for the day, which often surpasses 8 hours. He does everything at these lofty heights, from taking his lunch break to, well, everything else.
I think we just about got it ready to go down there.
These controls become extensions of Trainee's own hands that operate with the precision of a skilled surgeon.
The machine is a part of your body, basically.
The payload, wind, and sway of the crane are constantly calculated to fly and land loads safely and accurately.
Every pick, every movement you make, you're constantly taking safety into consideration.
But crane operators like Trainee have a secret weapon that aids in their excellence and is a must when it comes to safety.
All right, Trainee, coming up easy.
Skilled riggers that know how to tie a load safely and efficiently.
Just gotta check everything real quick.
Riggers have a special bond forged in trust with the guy in the sky.
One, hands on. They're guys that we trust our lives with because we're under those hooks. So that kind of tells you what I think of operators. They're the best in their field.
A bond that goes both ways. On the ground, riggers are the eyes, ears, and voice of caution for the crane operator.
We go through a lot to make sure everything we put in the air is safe. We do a lot of inspections, our rope, our rigging. Every time we put a hook to a pick point, we check for fractures, cracks, make sure the areas are cleared when we fly things overhead.
Communication is key.
All right, you're touching down on one side, inches for the other, and you are down.
Radio is a prominent communication, but if radio communication isn't available, you go to hand signals.
Whatever the job, there's a strap,
That's 3-inch.
chain, choker, or hook. A tool chest of solutions for any payload to ensure it flies safely and securely over a construction site teeming with workers.
Let's take 420s and see how the angle looks.
Riggers are laser focused as they prepare this platform for a flight over the construction site.
I'd like to do it before the wind picks up.
It needs to fly before the weather changes. The 10,000-pound platform heads to the top of the temple roof for installation.
Coming up, about 3 more.
Besides the heavy lifting of scaffolding, temple stones, and steel, these cranes perform often unnoticed but critical job site tasks such as trash removal and maintenance. By the time the temple renovation project is complete, they will have moved more than an estimated 40 million pounds of material, equal to 2 times the weight of the Eiffel Tower.
The church has always been special to me, and I'm getting a little choked up right now. The opportunity to work on such a project, especially this temple, it's really, really special.
Like a conductor performing a symphony, Trainee, with the help of his crew, will be at the controls affecting virtually every job on site through his extended touch.
And it's an important piece of this project. So going home at night and knowing that and saying, yeah, this couldn't have proceeded without my hands, the work that I put into it. Yeah, that's rewarding.
This has been the World Report for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, April 2022.
To watch the World Report online, visit newsroom.churchofjesuschrist.org. And to watch full-length videos of these stories, go to the Church Newsroom YouTube channel.